We are back with Adeem the Artist. Their new album from last year is Iron Pansexual. And the song you just heard was I Wish You Would Have Been a Cowboy, Toby Keith. Tell me about why, out of all of the garbage people in this country who benefit from promoting ignorance and, as you said, propping up fascism, why Toby Keith?
Yeah, that's a good question. He got a little unfair shake, I would say. I think the easiest answer is that I don't know if you're familiar with the sort of the popular internet theory that 9/11 ruined country music. Are you
familiar
with
with quite a few country music theories, but there's definitely been a turn towards chest beating America stuff.
Oh yeah.
Shutting out the Dixie Chicks.
And Toby Keith obviously played a significant role in that, in the suppression of the Dixie Chicks and weaponizing what's called on the right freedom of speech to sort of prevent people from saying what's on their conscience. And I think that song Courtesy Red, White, and Blue was really a big moment to me. I thought about the language in that song. I thought about my Arab friends who grew up in rural Tennessee and rural North Carolina and down here, and how hard it must have been, going to school during a time where, they were beating Sikhs in the streets in New York City, the liberal mecca of America, and I think to think about that song playing, under a montage of those acts of violence towards American citizens who were brown, and that was their crime. And even, I don't want to get too lefty on you here, but even examining the role that America, the role that America played in the Middle East for decades leading up to 9/11, and all the power dynamics involved in that, to be distilled down into the lyrics of Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. It's reactionary. It's visceral. It's angry. It's understandable, the sentiment. Toby Keith wrote it in 20 minutes. He wrote that song in 20 minutes and never changed a word. According to him, I don't know the truth, but to think about the gut punch of watching the towers fall, trying to find someone to blame, and in that moment, just like this, making up your mind and then never looking back. 20 years later, still is, acting like he's an armed forces service member because he's done these rock and roll tours of Iraq. And I was just, I found that to be a pivotal moment that's really fascinating to me, of really sort of subverting what I thought the American identity hoped to be on its best day in a really negative way. And so to me, that's why he became a surrogate. And I Wish He Would Have Been a Cowboy is obviously a callback to one of his best songs, which includes a couple troubled lyrics, but it's tough. It's tough. He was one of the guys in the 90s. He was writing great songs. He's an incredible songwriter. So for him to make that pivot and then evolve into what he is now, where he's writing such sort of hack pandery gobbledygook.
Yeah, you talk about him putting on a costume, this sort of costume of Southern culture, but also of the far-right ignorance. And I feel like that image is so, I guess, central to what is destroying America at the moment, because these people like Trump and Hannity, and they're putting on these costumes and acting like they're, you know, one of the forgotten Americans in the middle of the country, and
right.
No, they're not. They know better. They're taking the vaccine. They know what they're doing, but they're also weaponizing this image of themselves to make money, gain power, and, you know, make a lot of people very miserable. And that includes their supporters who are now paranoid and angry.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
It is a frustrating
That's my
thing
little
to watch.
rant.
No, I appreciate it. I don't know. How do you feel at 24 hours with news? You know.
I feel like there are things that just get repeated ad nauseum, and 24 hours of news would be a hell of a lot different than 24 hours of what they've got now, which is it's news adjacent, but I wouldn't call it news.
Yeah.
I think 24 hours of news wouldn't be the worst thing.
My grandpa, I love him very dearly. He watches a lot of Fox News, and last time I was sitting with him, it was on the TV, and I was just really taken aback by, because I don't watch the news at all, any of it. I read articles for the most part to get my news.
Oh yeah, that's actual news. What you're missing on TV, I'm not sure if it's news. Maybe the half-hour broadcasts on network TV, that's probably news. But
right,
Fox, CNN, that's commentary.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, just watching it, it was really fascinating. Because I used to listen to well, never mind, I won't go into that. To see how explicitly they're blaming like Democrats and leftists and socialists for everything was really strange to me, because I mean you see that on the left too, I guess, but I don't tune into a lot of that, so I don't see it as much. But just this idea that like Americans are some sort of domestic enemy, you know, rather than exploring the fact that we just have disagreements, is really, really fascinating. I mean, you know, the way my grandfather fears Antifa, you know, it's like, buddy, I march with Antifa. You know, I've been at these Black Lives Matter marches. Like, it's just really an interesting thing that it's language used to weaponize like a whole swath of people that are your neighbors and make you think they're like, you know, completely unrelatable.
Well, you gotta weaponize them if you want to overthrow democracy to fight them.
Right.
So, one more, I guess, question on the topic of real, I guess we'll call them crapheads in country music, because this is radio. What do you think of Morgan Wallen showing up at the Grand Ole Opry after his disgraceful rant captured on video?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to me that the Opry allowed that to happen, but it's not shocking, I would say. I mean, as for Morgan Wallen, like, I feel like he's somebody who's kind of shown who he is and what he's about, and, you know, if the dollar's the bottom line, and the dollar's the bottom line, and that's what that dude's into, and that's what he's doing, and, you know, what I think, you know, I think that, I think that Morgan Wallen got thrust into a thing kind of by accident, you know. I mean, he was talking to his friend in private, and it got recorded and posted, and, you know, it's probably not something he would have said publicly or had aired publicly if given the chance. But, you know, it's something he shouldn't have said either way. And I think that, you know, it's gotten really convoluted because whenever you try to talk to people who are supporters of Morgan Wallen, the comeback is like, well, he apologized. And it's like, yeah, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that this moment became sort of, just like Toby Keith with My Song, it became sort of a surrogate moment to examine racism and how systemic racism is in country music. And, you know, he was given the opportunity to talk with NAACP. Like, tons of people reached out and offered to give him guidance, to sort of like mentor him in this. And rather than take anybody up on that, which I think could have been a really big deal, you know, I think that what Morgan Wallen got handed with this incident was an opportunity to really address systemic racism in country music and make major changes to those systems of oppression that disenfranchise so many minorities, but especially Black and Indigenous folks within country music who are the purveyors and originators. And the fact that he dismissed those opportunities, you know, ghosted the people that reached out to him and tried to offer that opportunity to open that dialogue, the fact that he hired a PR firm and, you know, made a bunch of promises to donate money he just never donated, and then appeared on, you know, ABC, 6 months later and said, well, I haven't really thought about racism in country music. It's like, well, what have you been thinking about? It seems like that'd be the only thing on your mind. I mean, it's all anybody else wants to talk about with you. And so that showed me a lot what his character is. And, you know, I'm not above saying problematic things. So it's not like I think that words are unforgivable or anything like that, but it is about what you do with moments like that proves where your values are and what you're invested in, you know. And he took a moment that could have moved things forward and set them back, I think, in a decent way, or at least prevented it from moving forward. So the fact that the Grand Ole Opry made the decision to have him play on that stage, I think is pretty dark. I know, you know, there are a lot of us that just kind of shrug our shoulders and we're like, yeah, I mean, they're a bunch of racist people doing racist stuff. You know, that's what they do. But there are a lot of like Black artists who have shared that stage, you know, and that was a big life-changing, defining moment for their careers to be able to get on that stage in the past year. So for them to have that moment sullied by having an institution that has, at least in language, disavowed white supremacy and racism, make the decision to showcase somebody who has displayed such unapologetic, you know, commitment to supporting the rhetoric of his followers as they, you know, baptize Mickey Guyton and other Black artists in a deluge of racist epithets. I mean, it's tough to be sympathetic towards the kid.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, he wrote his album. He's a fairly talented songwriter, and
Agreed.
he got so far with that. And then the racism thing came out, and he got farther. It actually pushed him into the stratosphere because there are people who wanted to support him precisely because he said what he said. And he saw that and he thought, hey, I want a piece of that. This is great. Look at how high I'm on the chart. And that is where, more so than actually saying it, that is exactly where he made his decision and where he defined his legacy. And at this point, I think people who paid attention, they see him so much as a symbol of everything that's wrong in country music, because that's literally being a symbol of what's wrong in country music is how he's made most of his money. You know?
No, I agree with you. And he's made no efforts to like disavow that. You know what I mean?
No real efforts, at least.
No, exactly.
Collaborating on a rap song is not a real effort.
No,
that's just another cash grab.
Yeah, that's tokenizing. I mean, good on Lil Durk, get your money, but yeah, that's I mean, everybody that's a minority in entertainment industry has to pick and choose when they allow themselves to be tokenized for personal advancement, because sometimes it's a necessary evil when representation outweighs the risk or whatever. But yeah,
there's always going to be someone who just wants the money and the fame.
Yeah, and I mean, that was just PR. I mean, the same as Luke Bryan and everybody standing up for this guy. I think Garth Brooks has made some statement in support of him, and even our buddy Wallen Payne made some supporting statements, which was tough. I think the thing that gets me is, every time stuff like this happens with a white guy in country music, all these pillars of the country music industry step up and show out, and they're like, we're one big family. Country music is a big family. We got to stick together. We got to have each other's backs. But then you've got, people slinging the nastiest stuff imaginable at Mickey Guyton, at Reese Palmer, at Amethyst Kia, just saying disgusting things. And the response is totally lacking from those same people. It's such a it's such a not so subtle wink. We know who the family is. It just really, it drives me crazy.
Absolutely. Got one last question for you. I always have the artist I bring on to interview pick a song to play on the air, not their own, but anyone else's, and I give them a little category somewhat related to their music, our interview, and after all of the not so greatness we've talked about today, we're going to go in the opposite direction, and I'm going to have you pick a song by someone you think has, done a great thing for their community by using their music and their fame and their platform to do some positive work.
Yeah, that's so I don't know if you're privy to Black Opry. They're a new crew that's doing these shows. Black Opry Reviews been going around, and I've been privileged to attend a couple of these and see some really incredible artists. And there are so many people doing really amazing things. Allison Russell is somebody that I have a lot of respect for. George the Singing Shaman is somebody that I've got a lot of respect for. Yeah, I would probably pick her. She's got a song called New Kind of Outlaw that I really, really love.
All right, let's hear Deirdre the Singing Shaman and New Kind of Outlaw. Adeem the Artist, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Trevor. I really appreciate it.